welcome to episode 20 of Me Dark Presents Scary Movie Madness.
Whoop, whoop.
We are in the wonderful month of March. This is my birthday month.
It's also Women's History Month.
It's also Women's History Month, which will play into the movies that we chose for this episode.
Yep.
But why you got to skip over my birthday so fast?
Because
You're just not
I'm
excited?
a woman.
What does that mean?
Women's History Month is more important. I'm a woman first. I'm with you second.
Women's History Month is more important than my birthday.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm a woman first. I'm with you second.
That's ridiculous.
It's very simple logic.
Are you studying like women's history this month? Are you reading all sorts of literature and watching?
No, I don't need to do that. I live my life like this.
Oh, and so your life is just part of women's history because you're a woman.
Technically, yes.
I love it. The giveaway is officially over.
It is.
We have a winner.
We have a winner. I teased it on the story.
Nice.
We'll definitely post it again. I don't know how to say this person's username.
I mean, we could just post it. We don't have to say it.
It's kind of like princess, but it's Prin XS.
Congratulations.
That's our big winner.
Daryl
we're
Messenger
super
Bag.
excited. And not only that, but our winner from the other contest will get their prize as
Yes,
well.
that actually just came in the mail finally today. And
Perfect timing.
You opened it up and you're like, wow, this thing is really freaking cool.
Oh, I did, because I thought it was so much smaller than it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is even better. And the fact that like when the mask comes off, the face is there.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it actually has like the Jason mask is removable and you can see like the mangled zombie face underneath,
Yeah, they
which is
went
kind of cool.
full detail, but it's definitely bigger than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm. And then for those of you watching on YouTube, you see I have the ghost face killer on the table.
Yeah, brand new.
That was a new purchase.
Looking real legit.
I figured I'd put it on your side of the table because you're a big Scream fan.
I am a big Scream fan. I could literally quote the entire movie.
Yes. Well, as evidence from the first podcast, we ranked it very, very highly on the slasher list.
It was number one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it trumped everybody like boom.
No, it wasn't number one. It was number two. Halloween was number one.
Oh, that's right. It was number two.
Yeah. What'd you think of WandaVision this week?
Oh my goodness. WandaVision was mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. It was very sad.
It was sad, but I also just really liked how they approached this reveal.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the way that they were storytelling it. I liked that you didn't really know if Agnes was on her side or if she was someone that was concerning. But it was really just, she's like, damn bitch, how'd you get so good?
Yeah.
And she's like, how do I get this good?
It was like, it reminded me of like the Ghost of Christmas Past kind of thing. She takes Wanda through all of the reruns, I guess is what, how they kind of couched it. These moments of her past that were these milestones that led
Shaped
up to
who she was.
who she is now. Really, really cool. And she would like make like these magical doorways that they would walk through and it would take her to a different time period.
Even just the way she was dropping hints. She's like, none of this? The little things on the doors? No? None of this makes sense to you? Like this whole mindset of her just blown away that like, how can this girl do all of this and not know Witchcraft 101?
That's what the funniest part is. You have all these sorcerers in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Doctor Strange, now Agatha Harkness.
Yep.
And they all go through like this extensive like studying and learning how to use the arts of magic. And Wanda's literally done none of that. She can just fucking do it.
She's just gifted. Also, very great Women's History Month tie-in as well.
The history of magic and witches?
No, I mean, like Wanda, with Agnes and Wanda, it's like women empowering women.
They did do the little Salem witch trial thing in the beginning to kind
Her
of...
own mom, savage.
To establish Agatha Harkness. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. But even at the end when she's like,
she sucks the life...
chaos magic. Mm-hmm. And she's like, that can only mean one thing.
As the Scarlet Witch.
You are the Scarlet Witch.
That was a huge nerd moment for sure. Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? We watched it again.
Yep. No, it was so good. But the Salem witch trials, that was like a real thing where they would burn women at the stake.
It was crazy. Yeah.
They would claim that they were witches, but what is the history of that? I'm not.
What is the history? It's like if a woman did anything out of the ordinary to piss off a man, they were a witch. That's pretty much what it was.
That's it?
I mean, that's me oversimplifying it, but yeah. Like if you did anything to trigger somebody, it was like, she's a witch.
She turned me into a newt.
It's not even that. It's like, I've been having weird fucking dreams. It's this bitch. And like,
oh my God.
Be like, are you a witch? And they'd be like, no. And they'd be like, burn.
Holy shit.
Like, it's that simple. I don't know. I don't know if it's that simple, but that's pretty much what it was. Like, it was just religious persecution in a different way. Like, witchcraft is a religion in it of itself, like Wiccans, pagan, etc. So it's just like
pagan or pagan?
Pagan. How do you say it?
I thought it was pagan, but you said pagan.
Whatever. But the witchcraft is very much rooted, and when you really like look at it, it's really rooted in a higher sense of self and manifestation and things like that. Like, it's actually like a really beautiful thing, but entertainment has made it like witches are bad and they eat children and, you know, turn them into mice and shit.
Great movie, by the way, Witches. That's funny. You'd never seen Witches as a kid. I kind of turned you on to it.
No, I did. I remember
you did see it?
when I just didn't remember it as Witches, I guess. But when we started watching it, I was like, oh, yeah.
They did a remake of it with Anne Hathaway that we watched, and it was like the most forgettable thing ever.
Because they tried to, instead of like just letting it be as good as it was, like they just tried to lean so heavily on like overly exaggerated CGI. That's what I will say.
I don't even remember. I just remember going, this is not anywhere near as good
the story. And we love Anne Hathaway. Like, it was
I do like Anne Hathaway. I thought she would be great in it, but it was sort of flat.
It was flat. Like, I'd rather watch the old one.
Mm-hmm. Well, to celebrate Women's History Month, we decided that it would be cool to do some horror films directed by women.
Yeah.
And written by women. Both of these films are written by women as well. The first one, Jennifer's Body, is a favorite of yours.
Yeah.
This one is directed by Karyn Kusama. This is from 2009, which is crazy that Jennifer's Body is over 10 years old already.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Time flying. I mean, it's very early in our relationship because I recreated this costume.
Yeah, you were Jennifer, the Megan Fox character for Halloween, I think the first year we were dating.
Yeah, you were Bill the Butcher.
Yes. Those are some great costumes, actually.
They were. That was before we did
before we created our own characters.
Themed, right. Like before our theme costumes, if you will, yeah.
So Karyn Kusama, she did a movie called The Invitation, which I don't know if you remember, but we watched this one a long time ago. It's sort of a horror movie. It's maybe leans a little more towards thriller.
Is that the one where they're all like at a party?
Like a dinner party, yeah.
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But this one is written by Diablo Cody, which is this is like an offshoot brand for her. Horror is not really her thing. She's not known for horror. And even Diablo Cody actually came out after this film was released and sort of was upset with the marketing behind it and claimed that this movie wasn't supposed to be a horror movie. Like, why did you market it as a horror movie? That wasn't my intention. But at the same time, like, if I break down the writing of this film, I'm like, for this not to be a horror movie, you followed a lot of horror cliches.
There's a virgin sacrifice.
There's a succubus.
Cult references. There's, I don't know, like ripping people open and drinking their blood. Apparently, like you're at a fountain.
Yeah, I mean, it does have those Diablo Cody dialogue notes, that we got in the movie Juno, right? That was sort of her big first hit. I think Diablo Cody even won like the best original screenplay or something that year. It was
Juno
a big
won
deal.
A lot. Yeah.
But then she also went on to write Young Adult and Tully with what's her face? Charlize Theron.
Yep.
Is in both those movies. So Diablo Cody, really more of like an offbeat indie comedic kind of writer. So Jennifer's Body, definitely an interesting story for her to tell here. Now we have our two main characters, right? Needy, played by Amanda Seyfried, and Jennifer, played by Megan Fox, and they are high school best friends. Jennifer is the hottest girl in school. She's the head cheerleader. She's a little slutty, right? She kind of sleeps around. She likes to party and be rebellious. And then Needy is like, the more reserved, cautious, nerdy, smart one.
Really going hard with the cliche terms.
But that's sort of like, I hate to say it, but Diablo Cody's writing is sort of, it's a little like juvenile in a way.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that like she makes the character say is just ridiculous.
But I mean, am I wrong in those descriptions? I mean, they are sort of like,
I would like to say sexually liberated instead of slutty.
Okay. I mean, you know me, I'm not the best with like the PC terminology. I feel like everybody needs to lighten up a little bit. But I mean, they do play sort of these stereotypical archetypes, right?
Of course.
What do you think of that dynamic? I know you're a big fan of the movie. Does that sort of work for you? It helps set the stage that like, oh, I get it right away. She's this and she's that. They're like a yin and a yang.
Yeah, I mean, I think in high school, there's always that, like, you grew up together and one goes one route and the other one goes another route, but like, you're still friends because you've been through like so much shit together.
Yes. Yeah, they do sort of establish them as childhood friends, right?
Mm-hmm. So it works in that sense. And then like there's always that breaking point of like when it's like, oh, okay, it doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this movie walks that line of them kind of getting there, but like obviously for supernatural reasons. Instead of just that we grew apart.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care what Diablo Cody says. She tried to write a horror movie, right? So it has to have the supernatural
horror.
Dark elements.
Yeah, I mean,
to it.
For the amount of blood in this movie, the amount of eating human flesh, drinking their blood like a soda fountain. I mean, there's lots of. I mean, I've definitely seen other movies classified as horror that were less scary. So like, I don't know.
See, I don't think Jennifer's body is really scary. You would call it scary, or maybe just shocking from like a gore sense.
Right. Not scary for us.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like it takes a lot for us to be scared. But I'm saying, like in the category of horror, I've seen things that were more laughable than this movie. Is what I'm saying.
Apparently. I looked this up. Megan Fox lost 15 pounds to play this role.
Yeah.
And she stayed out of the sun. She wanted to look like sort of skinny and drawn and sickly, which I guess didn't really come off to me because it kind of looked like, she looked
I was about to say, I'm like, if that's what drawn and sickly looks like, I'll take it.
I don't know. Now, like reading that, I'd have to maybe go back and watch the film and see if anything sticks out to me. But apparently she was like under 100 pounds.
I was under 100 pounds once.
In high school, right?
Yeah, I mean, I looked like that. I didn't look sick though, because I'm pretty sure Megan Fox is pretty similar to my height.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably around 5'2", 5'3"-ish. I was 5'1". So, I am 5'1", and it's not that weird to be 100 pounds and 5'1". Like you're a tiny fucking person.
Right.
But at the same time, like we talked about this too, where in the movie, like they try to make her look deadish, right? Or really like bad. Yeah.
During the parts where she's, she needs a refill. She needs
a feed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I look at that and I go, if I looked like that on my like best day, I'd be happy.
Yeah. In those moments, she does sort of look like a normal teenage girl.
She's just like what a normal, young, beautiful girl who's not covered in makeup looks like.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much, it seems like that was the main difference is like
100%.
They made her look like she hadn't slept, and then
they put some purple bags under her eyes and
I almost wonder if that's what it is. I wonder if they filmed all of those scenes when she was 15 pounds less and,
when you look
sun-starved, and then the other scenes where she looks healthy and good is probably before she lost all the weight.
That would be so hard.
It would be hard to do.
You can't just like easily
shooting schedules
lose 15
would be tough.
pounds. Like it's not like when you're that size to lose 15 pounds.
I mean,
you're just like on a water diet.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what it is. You're sucking water.
I can't lose 15 pounds working out 6 days a week and watching what I eat.
This
girl wants
different.
to lose 15.
She probably has a team of people.
I need a team of people.
I mean, there are MMA fighters that lose 25 pounds in a week to make weight.
But dudes are different. Like dudes are genetically, predispositioned to like not store fat. Women, like we have to fight for that shit.
I mean, I think here you are talking mostly about water, that's like a weight cut. Like that's tough to do. That's grueling.
I mean, maybe. I don't know if even at her normal size, she has 15 pounds of water, but all right.
So
go with it.
She wants to go see this indie band, Low Shoulder.
Ugh.
And they go to like the most old man towny bar, again.
Hole in the wall shack.
Yeah. Okay, randomly, fucking Chris Pratt is here. Like, do you remember Chris Pratt being in this movie? Because I constantly
do.
I forget every time. And then when he shows up in this one scene, I'm like, oh yeah, Chris Pratt's randomly in this movie.
Yeah, as the older guy.
Yeah, I think he plays like a cop or something. He like already graduated from high school.
Yeah, because he's like threatening her with getting her arrested and shit. And she's like, yeah, okay.
Oh my God. Now she wants to go there, right? Because she thinks the singer is hot. She wants to hook up with the singer.
Yeah, she's thinking like this band that she really likes, and they're gonna be at this dive bar, and she knows she's the hottest girl who lives in this fucking town. Yeah. And it's like if they're gonna hook up with anyone, it's her. And so she wants to go there and shoot her shot.
And she does, like pretty much right away. She goes up to the lead singer, Nikolai, played by Adam Brody, and she's like, "Oh yeah, and I'll get you a drink." And Needy's like, "How the hell are you gonna get a drink? Like we're underage." And she's like, "Oh, I'll play Hello Titty with the bartender." Now I don't know what Hello Titty is, but
I know what it is.
What does that mean?
I mean, isn't it obvious? It just means that she's gonna like
just flaunt her chest.
Flaunting a little something there.
Now that was the next thing is like they do this whole thing because Amanda Seyfried narrates this whole movie pretty much, and they have this moment where she's like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to show my boobs because that's Jennifer's trademark." And you and I look at each other, go like, between these two, if one of them's trademark is the boobs, it's Amanda Seyfried,
100%,
not Megan Fox. So I'm like, I don't get this.
I mean, I guess it's one of those things like. I definitely understand it from like a teenager sense. I actually did not have big boobs or at least I don't remember. Maybe it's just that I was uneducated and didn't know really what my bra size was for like half my life. But I mean, I've definitely been in that world where like that's the case. Like, oh no, like if we're going out, I'm wearing a skirt because I'm the legs.
I was going to ask, is this a thing that women do? You coordinate what your outfits are and say, I'm the one that's going to show off the boobs.
No, that's not realistic.
That's weird.
No, it's weird. But I'm saying there's more of like an unconscious thing that there's certain friends who wear certain things to show off certain parts that they feel confident about.
All right. I mean,
like I'll always do my boobs. I know that's the best thing I got.
I mean, apparently it works because she's able to get these shots that you have to drink really fast. But the bartender's a woman. So she plays Hello Titty with this female bartender.
But maybe she didn't have to because it was woman to woman. She was just, that's the joke going into it. But like, I mean, it's not like I had trouble going to the bar and getting a drink as a girl. Never. You know how many times I get ID'd? Not once.
Now, what do you think of the song Through the Trees?
I want to kill myself.
Really? I don't think it's a bad song.
Are you on drugs today?
It's not a bad... Listen, when you take into consideration that somebody wrote this for a movie, that it wasn't meant to be a real song, I think they did a pretty decent job.
Fine.
There are artists that put out real songs that are far worse than this song. So I'm like, all right, if a team of writers for a movie could do better than you can when you're actually supposed to do this for a job, I'm
just gonna say that that's a lot of compliment for you to throw out. And we haven't obviously had any conversations around like music, but for anyone who is listening who knows you, well, it's big also, statements coming from you.
You have to understand that this is it's not my genre, but it's sort of my genre, right? They are meant to be like an indie rock band. Now they're playing in like
Panic at the Disco.
Yeah, they're playing in maybe like a little bit of like a more emo, softer kind of space than I do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, all right, I get this is like
Simple Plan, Panic at the Disco, right. All American Rejects.
But
style.
Every once in a while, I'll hear a song like this and I'll go, I'm annoyed that I didn't write this song because it's not a complicated song to write. And I recognize that it has like hit potential, right? This is like that song, How to Save a Life, that you hate, right? God. But every time I hear it, I go, yeah, I don't like this band and I don't really love what they did with it. But if you take the songwriting at its core and the catchiness of it, I'm like, I'm annoyed I didn't write this because this is one of those stupid songs that you could write that would hit, that people would know you for, and then you could put the good shit out over the top of it.
So what you're saying is you would sell your soul very much like this band for the sake,
it is interesting,
of
right?
your future, because that's what they basically
That's what they do.
I think it's just that the way that the movie plays out, they really do a good job of making you feel like you've heard this song 10,000 too many times.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay, fucking enough.
Oh yeah, no, they play the annoyance factor as the movie goes on.
That's what I mean. It's like I absolutely just hate it because like they make me feel like I've heard it for my entire life and I want to just like throw the music playing system.
Let's put it
out
this
the
way.
window.
Compare this song to like Dominion Rising in Uncle Peckerhead, right?
any of the bands in that movie.
That's what I mean. Like they did a pretty good job. Now, how does nobody notice? Because while they're playing, there's an electrical fire. The whole fucking place goes on fire.
Rising up the whole
How does
shit.
nobody notices that this whole place is going up in flames pretty quickly, except Needy?
Again, you're literally in like a broke down ass shack in the middle of nowhere
can't
where people are fucking hammered.
They can't recognize fire?
The fire is going like upwards.
And everywhere.
Right,
up and everywhere.
I think that part of it is like the slow-mo exaggeration of her being somewhat in a trance-like state looking at it, right? Like of like what's happening, and like it's a slowed down effect to make it seem like people aren't realizing it quicker. But yeah. I get what you're saying. It
is kind of ridiculous. It goes on a little long with all the everything going on fire, and just Needy's the only one that recognizes this. So she does, after the fire, everybody disperses. Jennifer does go off with the band in their creepy van, despite Needy's pleas, come on, let's just go to the diner. We'll get some disco fries. She's like, and call it
half drunk, half in shock, half drunk, half like, oh, this is exactly why I came here.
I mean, Jennifer pretty much immediately regrets it, right? When they close the van, the van door, and she's kind of looking around at where she's at. It's like, what did I just do?
What the fuck am I doing with my life?
Yeah. But holy shit, then we get that scene where, Needy is back home and Jennifer just shows up at her house in the middle of the night. She's covered in blood.
Ravenous.
Yeah, she's hungry. She goes right to the fridge and pulls out a whole chicken.
Yep. Starts shoving it in her mouth until, pukes it all up. Ugh.
She pukes up black sludge.
Yeah, goo.
And then she lets out like a demon scream.
Yeah. Well, makes sense, as we later find out.
I mean, I like this scene. I think it's pretty well done. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, because I like the scene too, because like she went somewhere like comfortable. It was like believable that you'd show up at your best friend's house late, especially if something happened to you. I think it makes sense. I love how Needy's like, Mom bought that chicken.
Yeah,
like trying to like discourage her from doing it. Like it's just so, and it's the fact that she's just like, oh God, like, her personality is to just dissent with whatever Needy says. So like, it's nice like that even as a demon, that's what she's doing.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of a mystery element to it too, because we don't exactly know at this point in the movie what happened to Jennifer.
Yeah,
that gets
we don't know
revealed
that something's
later.
Really wrong. I mean, maybe throwing up the black tar and screaming like a demon tells you a lot, but
yeah. So, she pukes up the slime and then she just bolts out of there. She ends up eating that one of her classmates on her way home. She tries to walk home and she's like really out of it, and she just eats them.
Just so hungry.
Yeah, because she shows up to class the next day and she's perfectly fine.
Just like,
and Needy's like, what the hell, man?
Like fountain of youth. Like, what the fuck?
She's like, I stayed up all night cleaning that black sludgy puke off of the linoleum floor.
And this bitch just rolls up like prom queen of the year. Great.
Oh my God. What do you think of J.K. Simmons as the teacher? I love J.K. Simmons.
I mean, it's funny like when these people show up in these movies, and like you said with Chris Pratt, like I remember him, but in this one I was like, oh yeah, shit.
I guess it makes sense now that I think about it, because I think he is in Juno. I think maybe he's is he the dad in Juno? He's some character in Juno.
I don't know if I ever even watched Juno.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've watched it, but I feel like he might have been in that movie, and maybe that's the carryover here. I mean, he doesn't have a big role, but whenever I see him, I just get happy. I just really love J.K. Simmons. What do you think about Needy and her boyfriend, Chip? Chip, played by Johnny Simmons.
It becomes kind of the conflict between them.
It does. It does set up that conflict where Jennifer, she's that girl that can get any guy she wants. And she's going to do that thing where, I'm going to pretend to kind of flirt with Chip every now and then to piss Needy off.
Just a reminder.
Oh my goodness. And Chip does sort of have kind of an attraction to Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do in that situation? You're going to say no?
Well, yes, I love you, babe. I wouldn't.
Oh my God, save it. Fucking save it.
What, if Megan Fox knocked on the door?
Yeah, whether we're in high school or not. You think a high school boy is like...
high school's tougher.
The hottest girl in school wants to bang me, or I could just protect things with my high school girlfriend who I probably won't see when I go to college anymore.
It's a lot harder to control yourself when you're a teenage boy in high school, for sure.
I still don't even know that I trust now that if it happened, you'd be...
No, I'd be all right. I'd be all right. I do love the scene with the football player, the linebacker, when she lures him into the woods. Yeah. That's cool, right?
I mean, the whole scene here is interesting. Like we talked about how they use the deer, and it's so bizarre.
That is weird.
But I think
it's weird that all the animals come to begin with when she's trying to seduce him in the middle of the woods.
But it's very much like a demon thing. Like think about the Antichrist movie. There's a lot of that same imagery there of the deer and, woodland animals. Let's just call it woodland animals, right? And the activity that happens when there's some kind of like energy. Mm-hmm. So like, I think that part of it is just that symbolism of like, the animals are coming out, they're drawn to something, but like then the weirdness factor of like, a deer is eating a human body, like that's the last thing a deer is going to do. It's just an extra signal of like, something fucked up is going on.
Oh, for sure. I mean, all of those scenes are, they're sort of the anchor into the horror element that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. Her, doing that whole succubus thing and luring her classmates in, her male classmates in so she can eat them. Because if she doesn't, I think that's pretty much the tale of the succubus, right? Is like she needs to feed on these men. Otherwise, she doesn't have any strength or power.
Exactly. Like her existence is now tied to souls, essentially.
There's also that scene with the house that she lures that kid to. We got that the artsy kind of emo goth kid.
Yeah, it's goth during this time, but yeah, the goth kid. Like shooting his shot with the hot girl. Needy's like, I don't know, I think he's cool, and she was like, okay, yeah, and then lures him into this weird house, which like at first glance for like this kid is probably like, all right.
No, it was weird to begin with, and I'm like, this guy's gonna climb. Yeah, but he's gonna climb through the fucking like he's got her phone number, right? She texts him the address. This is what was weird to me. I'm like, if I showed up at this house, I would have just been like, all right, let me text her and make sure I'm in the right place. Like maybe there's a typo in the address.
This is power of the pussy, my friend. Okay, like, do you think this guy gives a shit? He's like, I have a shot at this girl now.
This guy's not going to
question it.
He's not going to waste 5 seconds just texting her back. Am I in the right spot?
That's what I mean. Clearly not.
God. I mean, it's just pure stupidity. Or just call her and be like, all right, I think I'm outside, but there's like one street light that works on this street. Nobody lives around here. Like all these houses are abandoned.
I'm not disagreeing.
Like, where am I?
Again.
You can't clarify with her where you. So he just decides, oh, I can't go through the front door. Let me just climb through this open window.
Happens to be the exact right window.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this scene, I get that. I get why they did it this way because it was trying to like build up some suspense where he doesn't know where she is. And there's sort of like these noises coming from the room. But I'm like, okay, but the whole setup is just not too plausible. Couldn't she just as easily like,
make a mess in her own fucking house?
No, or just, meet me, at this diner or whatever and then kill them out back or something like that.
I mean, again, I just think it was like a setting change. Mm-hmm. Like, all right, the woods every time. Great. Here we go again.
Probably one of the more famous scenes in this movie is the makeout scene. Right?
Iconic from the MTV Movie Awards, if you will, where they love to glorify any girl-on-girl activity.
Now, it's interesting. I wanted to ask you this because, typically I would look at a scene like that and go, all right, a bunch of men stood around and they're like, how do we sell this movie? Maybe we just get these two, famous actresses to make out and we'll put that in the trailer and we'll tease it and then people will pay money. But in this instance,
that's how you got your male audience.
It's two women making this movie. Basically, you have the writer, Diablo Cody, and the director is also a woman. They just went for it anyway. They're like, whatever, this will work.
I think, again, though, it's in the spirit of,
her seductive powers.
Yeah, the fact that, again, like, there's a lot of experimentation at that age, right? And like, if there's anything that's going to allure you, if you weren't thinking about it, it's probably the succubus, right? And there's some level of attachment to Jennifer there that just goes to kind of tie it all together. Like, even her best friend is like sucked in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could buy it because they established Jennifer as like this seductress, right? It's like she can just seduce anybody. It doesn't matter. Like if she wants to steal your power, she can. Man or woman, old or young, it's just you're fucked.
Ain't got a shot.
But now here's the next thing is like, why do all of these horror movies that revolve around these high school kids, the movie always ends with a fucking dance? There's always like a dance at the end that they have to go to. Like, what is this? Is just laziness.
I mean, it's high school. There's always a dance.
How many dances did you go to in high school? Maybe I went to.
I went to many before I went to our school, which was shit.
I'm just saying, you can write a story that takes place with kids in high school that is not around a time that there's a dance.
I mean, I don't know how real it is now. I don't know how much that's a thing, but me and my friends, we went to like every single dance. We liked it.
I feel like we had more dances in middle school than high school. High school was really more about the prom, which was like an end of the year thing.
No, we had the typical, like the winter dance.
That was middle school,
the spring dance. You had junior prom, senior prom, depending on what year. Yeah, no, I'm saying the school, not Pat Med. Other school.
Yeah, that was middle school.
No, I was in high school then. It's different. The district we graduated from was fucking bizarre, the way that they do things here. Like other schools, it's like 1 through 6, 7, 8 is junior high, 9 through 12 is high school. Our weird ass school.
When did you move here?
I moved here for 10th grade.
Okay, so the 1 year, 9th grade, you had a dance.
Well, I'm saying like 9th grade, but every student in high school was going to those dances. I'm like just saying, like me and my friends went to every single one in 9th grade. Probably would have done it all the way to 12th.
All right. I just always find it funny that it's like we need to build to some sort of a climax or an ending. It's like make it be the dance.
Well, because that's like a way of like all of the kids are going to be in one place. Like it's an easy way to gather the students together. I mean, your other options are like the senior trip or a house party. Like, it's like it's just a formula.
Now, in this instance, it's not really about like, let's get all the kids in one place so we can have a massive amount of kills going on or like some sort of a massacre, a big spectacle. This one is like, they don't even get to the fucking dance. Jennifer just intercepts Chip on his way there.
Right. But Needy thinks she's going to the dance to do her deeds, if you will, and doesn't even think about her boyfriend.
Well, Needy gets to the dance and realizes that Chip's not there and that something is wrong. And that's when
it triggers. Right. She doesn't think that Jennifer would go that low is the thing. I think she just knew that, all right, if I go to the dance, it's a free-for-all is what she says, right? Like it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
She does kind of figure it out. She's like, all right, he's not here. Jennifer has him.
Yeah.
They have the showdown at this like abandoned building that has a pool, an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
I think it's supposed to be like a pool from the school that like they don't use.
It's very bizarre because it's like it's this giant lawn, right? And like it looks like it's 100 miles away.
It's so far.
Really bad VFX. Whoever made that building in the distance, like it doesn't quite. I don't know. Like the perspective is kind of off.
Yeah.
But it just looks like Needy has to run forever to get there.
I mean, I'd probably run halfway and be out of breath and be like, oh, fuck it.
Oh, my God. So
if
it's
he's
like
dead, he's dead.
But I'm like, oh, my God. Like, how did this make any sense? Even when it was functional and in use, it seems to be in the most inconvenient location.
Do you have an hour between your fucking swimming class? Like that's probably why they don't use it anymore.
Yeah. Well, when she gets there, it's like it's pretty much already too late, right? Like, Jennifer is gnawing on his neck, and he's just bleeding profusely. They have their little battle or whatever, and Jennifer gets stabbed with the pool skimmer.
Is it the pool skimmer? I thought it was like.
I think it's a pool skimmer, but like it's like broken, so that the edge is sharp.
Yeah, maybe. I forget. I just know it was like a pole of some kind.
Yeah. I mean, so this is fine. Jennifer escapes. She's kind of like left to lick her wounds. Really, the purpose of this scene is not so much about Needy and Jennifer coming to a head. It's more about killing off Chip and giving Needy the motivation to off Jennifer. Because I think without Chip dying and her witnessing what Jennifer has become and seeing that, like, I have to put a stop to this, I don't know that Needy ever would have had the guts or the strength to actually take Jennifer out.
Exactly. Like that's what it's all about.
Yeah, she goes back to her house. And then they have their fight and Needy gets the better of her, but Jennifer's mom walks in on this, witnessing Needy kill her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Needy ends up in jail.
Well, crazy house.
Is it the crazy house? I thought it was prison.
I think she's meant to be in like an institution because she's like...
But she's wearing like an orange jumpsuit. It's like a prison institution.
I thought she was... I don't remember her being in orange, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I remember her being in like what it looks very much less like a cell and more like...
Oh my God. Let's talk
room.
about this fucking room that she's in because it makes no plausible sense. It's about... I don't know. I would say maybe it's like a 3x5 room. It's like a tiny little nothing room. But this thing is like 900 feet in the air. It's super high up. Like, how tall is this fucking room? It's the weirdest thing, man.
Yeah. I hope that's what you're harping on.
It's just weird. You know what it is? It's like, it's one of those things where I get that probably the visual of it was cool. Like the director's like, well, we need to show that she has powers. So we want her to float up really high. Yeah. Right. So it's like, let's just make the room that she's in super tall. But meanwhile, it's like, this doesn't have, like, there's no plausible reason why that she would be in like this tower dungeon, which is basically what it looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this one overall, it's a fun movie. It's not really scary. It's just sort of like,
I don't know. I just always liked it. I always thought it was just like well done beginning to end, and like it was different. It wasn't what you were used to, and so it's one that I really actually like enjoy watching.
Yeah, and I thought it made sense to talk about this one because the next one we're going to talk about is the Babadook from 2014.
Oh yeah.
And I know that you always sort of get on me when I put like too many dark films on one podcast. You're like, we need to have like some lighthearted stuff to break it up.
Like Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave. It was like, well,
epic.
Get ready to fucking want to kill yourself later. I don't know. Like, this is awful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I figured Jennifer's Body is sort of, it's a little more like straightforward. It's not like over the top. You're not dealing with like some real shit where the Babadook is like, this is some real shit.
It is some real shit, the Babadook.
Now, the Babadook is written and directed by Jennifer Kent, and this is her first feature-length film. And she's only had 2 feature films. Very, very impressive for her to be able to write and direct this as well as she does. It's like a masterful job, I feel like.
Yeah.
Her other movie is The Nightingale. I've never heard of it. I don't know anything about it.
Seen that.
So this one is starring Amelia Vanek. No, Amelia Vanek is the character. Mm-hmm. Essie Davis is the actress.
I was like, weird. The character and the person have the same name?
Amelia Vanek and her son, Samuel, they're struggling with the loss of their husband and father, respectively.
Yep.
Now, the father dies. They get into a car crash, right, as a family.
On the day that she was driving to the hospital to have the baby.
Unbelievable. I love how she films this opening shot of the car crash. Mm-hmm. Just the cinematography of it is stunning because it's mainly just a shot of Amelia bouncing around the frame. It's mostly just black, and then it's just these little flashes of light over her face. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of cut in such a way where it's like you don't really know that she's in a car until that reveal of like her looking over at her husband in the seat next to her. And I guess he's driving because it's like, it's reversed, right? Is this in Australia?
Yeah, it's in Australia.
And you just get that shot of him. It's the crash. And then the transition is beautiful because it goes back to her and she like floats down into her bed.
Yeah.
And the whole time we're hearing like her son calling for her in the background.
Fucking good, man. What
a beautiful way to really establish a really traumatic event in such an abstract way where, you know, at first you're kind of like disoriented, like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Then you recognize that it's a car crash. And then that transition into her and her son, it's now you're in the aftermath of it. Mm-hmm. Just so beautifully done, I thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really subtle symbolism throughout this movie. And I think it was easier to kind of like piece it together the second time around watching it versus the first time when we were just like, oh, this is like a crazy, horrifying movie.
Yes. The first time I was super confused, I'll admit.
Right. Like, I think like there was such great stuff in it and you were left like, damn, what the fuck did I just watch?
Mm-hmm.
But like now really looking back, I know a lot of this movie is rooted in mental health.
Yep.
And the whole idea is that you're watching kind of like a symbolic representation of this woman going into a severe state of depression on the anniversary
For sure, yeah.
of these traumatic events. So like, it's like this compact cyclical experience for this woman in a, what is it, hour and a half film. Mm-hmm. And it all is centered around leading up to this birthday for her son. Mm-hmm.
And it's really like, it's a tough thing to describe or convey because I feel like so much of, it's like you're saying, a lot of it is subtle, right? Mm-hmm. So much of what goes on in this movie to reflect the things like depression and the grief of a lost loved one. So much of it is baked into the cinematography and the sound design of this film, right?
All what it looks like and how it feels.
And how it feels, because she does do a great job of capturing those feelings and those emotions through sound and just these visual storytelling elements.
And there's such a, like, in contrast to Jennifer's body, where like if Jennifer doesn't feed, she's immediately just like destroyed. Mm-hmm. Watching it this time, knowing that I already know what's going to happen, being able to watch how Amelia deteriorates. Yeah. I think like they do a really, really great job of her character kind of going down that path to what you were saying, like the way her surroundings start to appear. And it's like such a manifestation of what she's feeling and seeing.
And it's difficult, I think, as a viewer, because we're never really grounded in who Amelia is. We just deal with her after this horrible thing has happened to her. So from a viewer's perspective, it's like, I don't recognize the change because I've never seen who she was really prior to this. Yeah. And they do, as the movie goes on, you do get a little bit of a glimpse of kind of who she was, because she has moments where she sees her husband and it is sort of this revealing moment of like that love that she had for him when she does see him. Yeah. Even though she's not really seeing him, it's just all in her mind. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is so much about like the environment of this house. The house is like, I remember commenting while we were watching it, like the palette of the house is so heavily blue.
Yeah, there's a lot of blue in this movie.
A lot of blue. And I'm like, I wonder if this was like a deliberate choice of like the blue is meant to reflect a depressed soul. Yeah. Right?
I mean, it's also like, because when you think about all of these elements and the way it affects now her son, right? And so like it's such a big part of this movie is just him watching his mother sink into this state, essentially. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is designed to make you be like, damn, this kid's fucking annoying as shit.
See, I didn't have that take.
You're insane.
I love Sam, played by Noah Wiseman. I thought this character was, because Sam is he's going through a lot of the same stuff that his mother is, right? It's just, and he also sees and hears and feels the Babadook, just like she does, right? They're both grieving this loss. But the way that he copes with it is like, it's such a brilliant, childlike, wondrous way of like how he's going to protect his mom. He builds this backpack with the catapults gun, and he has the little dart gun that he carries around with him, and like there are just moments in this movie where he's just walking around the house with this little catapult backpack like, Mom, if the monster comes, I'm gonna do this, and like he flings the catapult through the window, and she's like gets all mad.
Damn it. But that's what I mean, like the shitty things that the kid does when he's in the back of the car screaming, I would lose my shit.
Well, that whole scene,
I don't
like,
have patience.
That devolves into like him having a full-blown seizure in the back seat.
Well, there's more than one scene of him in the back seat, like losing his mind. And again, these are the moments where if you compare the first time you see the scene of the mom driving and him in the back seat where she's at, and then the next time that you see that scene, because that is a repeated visual. Yeah. Her driving, him in the back seat. It's obviously parallels to the experience, and like, again, as they get closer to his birthday, how it gets worse and worse.
There's that scene too where it's like when you do first watch it, you're like, oh my God, this kid is annoying. And she comes in his room and she says something to him, and he immediately grabs his like catapult backpack, and she's like, stop it with this thing. And he pushes her off and he grabs the backpack. He's like, do you want to die? And at first you're like, is he threatening his mother? Like he's going to kill her? But I'm like, no, he's basically warning her like, Mom, we have to protect ourselves. Like, do you want to die? And I'm like, now that I see it again, I'm like, oh, that's what he was doing.
That's what he was doing. But there's the three ways of looking at it, right? Because there's, do you want to die? Like, don't fuck with me.
Right.
Do you want to die?
That's what I thought it was.
Right? Like that's first because you're like, damn, this kid is real cray. Then there's, do you want to die from the mental health standpoint, right? There's that parallel of like her will to live. And then there's his mindset as a kid.
Of like, yeah, we're going to die if we don't do this. So it's such a powerful
line in that way of like, however you're interpreting the movie at that point, you have three different ways to take that line.
I think the best parts of this movie, well, first of all, when he brings...
Do you want to die?
When he brings her the Babadook book, right? Because she reads him a bedtime story every night. Because let's face it, they both, ever since this event, they have a lot of trouble sleeping, right? And he always wants to sleep in the bed with her. He's always like gnashing his teeth and grabbing her throat while she sleeps. Like it's just like, it's a bad situation. So she's like, you know, I'll just read him these stories. She's like, you can pick the story tonight. And he brings her the fucking Babadook book. Now, this book, it seemingly just manifested in their house, it seems. Like, she doesn't know where it came from. He doesn't really necessarily know where it came from either.
Yep.
But how cool is this concept of a pop-up horror book?
I think it's just so well done.
So well done.
Like,
it's so well written.
Right. Like, it's so simply done as a child's book. First of all, where the hell do you come up with the term Babadook?
I don't know.
These are the greatest things, right? Like the greatest ideas of like you're sitting home and some weird word comes to mind and like you manifest this whole thing.
Maybe there is some sort of deeper meaning to it that I'm not aware of. But
I don't know. Yeah, because like they break it up as like Babadook Dook Dook is about the sound of the knock and letting it in, right? Like and like you got to avoid letting him in. You got to avoid it. And it's like that. It's again just that symbolic nature about like letting the grief overcome you if you let it in.
Right. Yeah. And how they film her reading this book is really awesome. All those like sharp pans across the pages and like as she turns the book and something pops up, it's really well edited. It's really well paced. And just the way that they do that even is enough to convey to you as an audience member that Amelia is super uncomfortable reading this book.
Yeah,
right?
She's like, where the hell did you get this shit?
Yeah.
Put it back. And the kid's like, no, you said I could pick.
I mean, even after they're done reading it and she puts it away, she can't really sleep, right? It's like stuck in her brain. And she goes back, opens it again, and is like going through it. She's like, what even is this? Now, I don't know how you're supposed to take it as a viewer because the Babadook is seemingly a proxy for, as you said, it's her grief, it's her depression, trying to wash over her and possess her and come in.
Take over. As
much as she's fighting it, it's, you know, there's no way to fight it. You do sort of have to at some point let it wash over you. But this book is like, it is a very practical thing in the movie. Yeah. But really, it's only real to her and Sam. I don't know if any other character, there's not a tremendous amount of characters in the movie to begin with. But
yeah, no, there's not. But I think that's exactly what it is. It's like, even from the outsider perspective, right? Like when they're frustrated and they're going through this, like it's truly about watching someone you love go down this spiral. You know, they recognize that Sam's fucking weird as shit. And they're like, my kid doesn't want to be around that guy. He's a little wackadoo. Like,
well, that all comes to a head too. When I think he pushes that little girl out of the treehouse.
To be fair, she deserved it. But
she didn't believe him. That was his reasoning.
She was rude.
She was rude because she didn't believe in the Babadook?
Not even just that. She torments him. It was a culmination of things. That little girl got what she was.
Well, I mean, kids are mean. What are you going to do?
That's what I mean. It's like, if you're going to be mean and you know that this kid's crazy.
I don't know that she deserved to be pushed out of a treehouse, Dolores, but yeah.
She didn't die.
No, she doesn't die. That's
also,
true.
Really unbelievable that she fell on her face because she was facing him and he pushes her. She would fall on her back.
Yeah.
So she would have been all right.
Yeah, I mean, we get this movie is it's pretty scary. I mean, there's tons of scenes with And it's not even just like at night. At first it's at night, right? Where it's like he hears something under his bed and they got to investigate. And then there's like these little noises as she walks throughout the house, like where she can't, or she's just laying in bed and she can't sleep. There's always like this knocking or this creaking of some kind.
Yep.
But then it even starts to ramp up more where it's like it starts happening during the day too. I think that's after she destroys the book, right? She throws it out.
She tears it up into pieces and then throws it in the trash.
Right. And then that's when it starts almost getting worse. And then she gets that knock at the door and then there's the book.
On the porch.
Which is, come on, that's fucking scary as shit.
Oh, 100%. It's like Twilight Zone with a doll.
Mm-hmm.
There's like one Twilight Zone episode that I'll always remember. And it was like the doll that talks and they throw it away and it comes back. I think Annabelle kind of brought this idea back. Yeah. But it was OG to the Twilight Zone.
After she destroys the book, she opens it again and the pages are like sort of glued back together. But
there's more pages.
Yeah, it's been rewritten.
This is also the creepy thing about like finding the book, right? Because when she reads it and in the first like few scenes with the book, there's blank pages at the end. Like what book comes with like 20 blank pages? Is
it that many? I thought it was a few.
It was I mean, they don't show you all of them, but it looks like a pretty thick stack.
Which is a nice little touch because it does imply that like, you know, the words on the page and the visuals are not, you know, they are sort of a reflection of her grief and her depression, right? But there's also like premonitions in there, right?
Yeah.
If you really pay attention to the visuals that pop up in the book, they start to sort of happen to her as the movie goes on. And they had this one line, and I think this is the line that really hammers it home for me in the rewrite of the book, that really tells the viewer, like, this is really about depression and grief, and just the Babadook is sort of a proxy for that. It says, "I'll wager with you, I'll make you a bet. The more you deny, the stronger I get." Mm-hmm. And that's really, you know, they say those are the stages of grief, right? Eventually you have to accept it.
Denial,
she's just not getting to that acceptance phase. And that's why this Babadook is just growing stronger and stronger, because
the darkness.
And she even keeps saying it to Sam. She's like, the Babadook isn't real, right? He believes in the Babadook.
Yeah.
She just refuses to let it in.
Well, that's the separation, right, of not mentioning the husband, right? Because she's constantly like, we can't even mention it. We can't even talk about it. You can't mention his birth. You don't even celebrate your son's birthday. You celebrate the day after, right? It's all of that. Like to her, like that day doesn't exist. That moment doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But even her young son can be like, well, my dad died in a car accident the day I was born. Like he's just like,
he is very matter of fact about it.
Right. Like it's like he accepts it.
But it does
and
still,
she doesn't.
It does still scare him. And I think I think that's sort of an important character piece of Samuel is like, even after you believe and you've accepted it and you've moved on, it's still terrifying. This is still something that will most likely haunt you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. But I think it's more that he's haunted by the fact that like it's his mother who is like in this place. Like all he wants is for his mother to like, I don't want to say be normal. That's an awful thing. But like he wants a sense of normalcy, right? And like, for sure. I always take it as like, this has to be something that happens annually because of the fact that he's created a plan this time. Right? Like it's not
he's
like
ready for it.
Yeah, like it's like he knows what to expect almost, right? And so like there's this level of like he was prepping for what was inevitable in his mind.
Yeah.
It's scary. But
it's really fucking, I mean, we get another premonition in the rewrite of the book too, with her strangling the dog and then her strangling the kid. And oh my God, I mean, what a refreshing way to showcase these horror visuals in like a pop-up book, right?
And it's crazy.
It's a very monochromatic thing, right? It's like everything is sort of just black and white, and it's like things aren't like really colored in that cleanly. It's kind of scribbled and scratchy.
The one when I think it's for the dog, the throat slit and the little tab of the blood that comes down. Obsessed.
Amazing.
Like I just love those little details to the pop-up book. Like, did they make this book? Like, I feel like I need to buy it and have it for like our house.
We should buy the book. If they do make it, we should have it for sure.
I'm definitely gonna buy it today.
One One of the scarier scenes, I love the scene where, she's laying in bed with her son and she hears the creaking sound and then the dog barks. So she's like, all right, let me go let the dog in. Maybe it was just the dog at the door. And then goes back to bed and then the door opens on its own. No. And this is really the first time that the Babadook has like physically interacted with the environment. And again, the lighting, the cinematography in this movie is just perfect because you just get a little sliver of like moonlight from the window.
Yeah.
That reveals like a little part of his visage, right? A little bit of his form factor pokes through. And she immediately like pulls the covers over her and she's like,
that's what I do. If you go under the blankets, it's not there. Everybody knows that.
But then that's when we get that really strong, scary Babadook voice. Where it's like, Babadook, Dook. And it's like really fucking loud.
I'm already mad. I hate it.
And she's like still under the covers, like, holy
fuck that
shit.
thing. That voice, again, now, like, the idea of the Babadook in terms of, like, the word itself and then personifying it with that voice, yeah, go fuck yourself. I hate it.
Shit. Now, I did notice something, though. Like, when she pulls, because this movie also has a black sludge puke thing.
Oh, yeah, we were on the black sludge.
Yeah, it's like a
moment.
weird connection this movie had to Jennifer's body where there's two characters that puke black sludge.
Yeah.
But when they show the Babadook in this scene and he's on the ceiling, like, moving around, like, all twitchy, he does sort of just look like a black blob.
Yeah.
And this is the moment right before he like kind of jumps into her, like he possesses her when she goes full on crazy to like. So
she let him in.
Yeah. And obviously that's her like puking up the Babadook. Like he looks like this black sludge. Yeah.
Again, like I feel like they do such a great job of taking very simple identifying features of depression and again personifies them into a character. Like amazing. The Babadook is just darkness. It's darkness within you, right? And it's pushing the darkness out or fighting it. Nope, she lets it in. So now the darkness is within her. Like it's very much like a really cool way of making that connection. Yeah,
and she goes wild from this point on. Like she doesn't really sleep after this. She starts threatening Samuel, right? She's like holding the knife. And he's like, you're not my mother. You're not my mother. And this is sort of a reflection of what you were talking about before, of where it's like he's seen her act like this before, where it's like, this is not my mom. Like my mom loves me. Like I've seen.
He knows.
Yeah. He's like,
that's not real.
She's just going through one of her things. And it's like, you're not my, like, what are you doing?
Yep.
And she does end up strangling the dog. Mm-hmm. And she does come like within inches of strangling her own son and killing him. I think what ends up breaking her out of the trance or whatever is he just starts like kind of petting her head, like showing her like love, like it's me, it's me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Could you imagine being a little kid and this is what you have to fucking...
There are little kids who go through this shit and don't make it out.
Holy shit. I mean, just really, really powerful stuff because then she does the puke. Now, the one question I always had with this movie that was weird is like... she pukes out the Babadook and everything is like seemingly okay, right? It's like the birds are chirping again. It's a nice day. And they're collecting worms, right? In a bucket. And she takes this downstairs and like feeds the Babadook the worm. Like the Babadook is in the basement and she feeds it worms. Like, I don't understand.
I know. And like, this is the part that always was like, for me too. Because it's like, do you want the story to be that there really is this monster and it exists and is it the idea that you'll never get away from it, but it's all about how you tame it,
how you manage it
and how you manage it. Yeah. And it's like, will someone who goes through that ever be 100% again? Probably not. They just have to work at keeping the status quo. Mm-hmm. So that's the only way that I could explain it in the terms of how they've, made mental health and depression and all those things more of a symbolic story.
Yeah.
It makes sense in that realm, but like aside from that, I don't really know if there's another way to explain it.
I mean, I'm sure some nerd on YouTube has like broken through
it down better
the Babadook explained and the Easter eggs that you missed and blah blah blah. I mean,
I just gotta be that person who does it like WandaVision.
Yeah, which is like it's cool. I love it in the context of like something like the Marvel universe because it's so vast and there's so many movies and there's so many years that go by and between
comic books that you did or didn't read.
Right, there's so many different reference points that you can't possibly follow unless you have sort of like a guide like that, somebody that went back and did all the research and it's like, here it is collected for you. But there's something about, I don't know, it's a standalone movie. It's like you took in the experience of watching it. And yeah, there's probably a couple things that you missed and didn't quite understand. But at the same time, it's like if you made a movie or you wrote a movie and you need somebody on YouTube to go explain what certain things in the movie were, then maybe you failed a little bit, because I should be able to just watch it on my own and pick up on what these things are.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's sometimes nice because like you go into a movie with a mindset of what it might be, and then watching it, you are like, that wasn't exactly it. And so sometimes you try to read about it and then you put it together because your thought process going in is different, right? So you don't pick up on the things the way that they should. I feel like that was my first take at Babadook. Yeah. Was like, I'm thinking of this as a monster movie, that I was ignoring the facts of the mental health. Yeah. But now it's like, oh yeah, it's so very obvious what it is.
Well, yeah, because I think by the time you get to the end of the Babadook, the first time you watch it, you sort of, then you have to go back and sort of question what it is you watched and what everything meant. Because like you said, you do sort of just go into it. Your default stance is, it's a monster or some sort that, you know, she has to fight. It's some supernatural ghost thing, right? Yeah. That's your default. But what's great about like really good horror is whenever you have a creature like that or a ghostly figure or something supernatural, it is important to sort of have it reflect some sort of human struggle or philosophical idea.
What feeds it, what builds it, what makes it a being, what makes it alive.
Yeah, that's what sort of grows your storytelling element. Otherwise, you're sort of just in slasher world, or you're in like a formulaic kind of. Well, it's true, because if you like so much of, or not even just slasher world, you're in like the paranormal world of like ghosts and stuff like 100%.
That. It's hard to make a monster good and not cheesy, you know? And I think like they do such a great job of this because they don't try to overly personify him. They don't try to make him superhuman-like. They don't show you so many times that it gets old.
Yeah, no, you barely ever see the full figured form of the Babadook.
The face like once, I think.
Yeah, you get an idea of like, it looks like a really pale, slender man in a dark trench coat or overcoat of some sort, and he has this big top hat.
The top hat is crazy to me.
What is it about this video? This is like what like Jack the Ripper is always portrayed as, right? Because he always has like that trench coat with the top hat. Yeah.
The cape.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it is like a cape. Yeah.
Yep.
Have they done like a Jack the Ripper horror movie?
Yes. From Hell is an adaptation, I guess, or loosely based. It's a Johnny Depp movie with Heather Graham.
Oh, never heard of it.
What?
No. Older one?
I mean, I guess so. It's probably around the same time as like Sleepy Hollow, Boogie Nights, that world.
Boogie Nights. I love Boogie Nights.
I fucking love Boogie Nights too.
All right. Well, that'll do it for our women's history portion. I think we're going to move on to, we had some other stuff planned because it was my birthday. I was
There's
like,
so much stuff in March. You got Mark's.
No, I know. I wanted
Mark's favorites, or we were going to call it Mark Madness.
Well, yeah, that was one of them. You're like, why don't we just pick like your favorites? But I was like, what I feel like would be even more fun is doing horror movies that I've worked on.
Oh,
I
that's
think
right.
would be fun.
But it still works for Mark Madness.
Yeah. So horror movies that I've actually like worked on and helped create, I thought would be a fun thing to talk about. And then you were like, we got to do the Leprechaun.
How do you not?
For St. Patrick's Day. It's been a minute since I've watched any Leprechaun movies. I think maybe.
I won't be gold.
Oh my God. I was probably like 10 or 11 years old.
Oh my God. I have so many stories about this. I can't even. We have to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, those will be some fun episodes coming up. And again, we missed out on the games again. We just haven't had the time to do the games.
It's so, I feel bad, but we'll come up with some good ones eventually.
It's worse for us because it doesn't give us any interactive content for social media. But.
It's killing me for all of you, but hopefully you're still listening to us.
All right. That is our show. Thank you for watching, listening, whatever format you're on. And remember,
we don't give awards for art.
No, we don't.